So, our final review of the day is going to be for a television series. I've been meaning to review this for quite a while now. This has been over and done with, but Shogun. Shogun is a TV series that came out this year. It ended in April, about mid-April there. And right now, it is the most nominated show for primetime. It has the most primetime Emmy nominations at 25. Right behind it is The Bear at 23. So was a big. I don't know if it'll be a big winner, but it was a big nominee at the primetime Emmys there. Many people were raving about this show, talking about this show, going like, "Man, you gotta check this show out. It's the best, new thing on TV right now." And this is based on a 1975 novel by James Colville there, and they did a version of this television series, 1980s miniseries. There, they did it way back then. So this is kind of like a little bit of a, I guess, another adaptation. I guess you wouldn't say remake because it's based on a novel, so I guess you wouldn't say remake, but another adaptation, I guess you would say. So you kind of have that there of this, and what is it about? So it's kind of colliding of cultures here. You have a character by the name of John Blackthorne who gets his ship gets wrecked. He gets washed up on the shores of Japan, and the John Blackthorne character is based on a real life figure there. The real life figure of an English navigator by the name of William Adams. So that's kind of like you do have some real life history precedents there. And a lot of people in this show are based on real life people in history, like the character of Sonata there. He's much very based on a real life emperor that ruled in Japan. And so you have these clashing of cultures. He comes washed up. Of course, they hold him as prisoner there because he's a foreigner. But he kind of finds a way to integrate into Japanese society and then kind of finds a place amongst this war kind of going on that's happening, the civil war happening within the Japanese people. I'm very much of a person who's trying to stay in power, maintain power against oppositions there. That's very much of Sonata's character. He's playing Lord Toriga. How you say the last name? It's
Uh, Toranaga.
Toranaga there, playing Lord there. Who's trying to be the Lord? I think the main title is the Domo. I think is what it was, or the
Yeah, I think so.
yeah, and he's one of the 5 regents there, the people that control, but he wants to be basically the head, basically the top of all those, and tries to basically work out a master plan in order to do that. And this is gonna be spoilers, by the way, there for this in case anybody, who hasn't seen it. But highly recommend checking it out. Highly recommend checking it out, watching it, then coming back there. People have described it as like another Game of Thrones type show here, that you can also watch, if if that's kind of type your thing. So I'm gonna give the Sage here. Sage, what are some of your quick thoughts about Shogun here?
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, right, it's, you follow this Englishman that washes up in Japan. It's also kind of taking place right around when like the Portuguese trading routes are being established in Japan. And then, I mean, personally, I think that's one of the most interesting kind of ways to do historical fiction is set during a kind of unique moment of cultural crossover where you have people from different places kind of clash and how those sensibilities work themselves out. So kind of right off the bat, it's interesting to me for that reason. But then, just actually watching the show, from the costumes, set design, I mean, I noticed like little to no real like CG, right, special or computer generated effects at all. Everything here is done very practically. You mentioned like, it might appeal to people that were a fan of Game of Thrones. And I think that's true. I mean, I think this nails the kind of political subterfuge element of all that. I think it does that really well. I think it's more interesting, I think, than at least certain parts of something like Game of Thrones, just as an example. But I mean, the cast here sells this really, really well. I mean, I think you have kind of a main trio, I'd say, of actors, but kind of probably the main characters. You mentioned 2 of them already, but I think Anna Sawai, I want to say, maybe is the one I found like especially captivating.
Yeah.
There's just this is an interesting way that she displays her emotions, I think, to the audience really clearly, but while also being very reserved and polite in the way that like the Japanese cultural norms require of her. So she's hiding what she's thinking from the other characters, but kind of expressing it to the audience in a way. I found it to be a really interesting performance.
Yeah. So the budget on this show, so it says $250 million, I think is the reported
Okay.
budget for this show, and this is 10 episodes here. And from what I understand, the novel is pretty short. It's pretty, and they
Yeah.
did most of the material in this first season. Actually, it was only supposed to be just this one season, but you know how
Yeah.
that goes. I guess the insane popularity of the show, they were like, well, maybe we can do a little bit more, reach in the bag, maybe do two,
I'm
three
concerned
seasons.
about that. Just because they did cover the whole book here, I worry that they're extending it only for that reason. I mean, hey, maybe they have a real idea of how to tell more story. They might, right? They totally might. But yeah, I worry that it's just kind of a greed-driven decision.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what happens if they can kind of carry it on there. But yeah, so the show has been greenlit for I think season 2, and they're going to do a season 3. So I don't know how much more material they're going to do there because, like I said, the book they basically did all the material with the book there. And this show is mostly in subtitles. It's mostly people speaking in Japanese there. Have you ever seen the original 1980s miniseries?
I haven't. I haven't read the book either. I've spoken to people that have read the book that said it was very faithful.
Okay.
But I had no previous experience with either the other miniseries or the book.
Okay. So yeah, very much, very much you'll read a lot of subtitles with this because it's people speaking in Japanese there. There's a little bit of English only coming from John Blackthorne there. And even from him, eventually he learns a little bit of Japanese as he's staying there most of the time. So yeah, when you first, kind of see him there, just kind of washed up on shore, you see kind of these people that he's got a whole crew with him. They've been stranded for a while, completely dirty, completely unkempt there. And I guess he only likes to bathe, I think, once a week or something. It's like, I guess which they do comment on in the show there. And it's pretty much the trio, like you mentioned. It's pretty much Sonata there. It's pretty much Cosmo Jarvis. Damn, that's like a Fantastic Four character right there. Cosmo Jarvis.
Yeah, I didn't
Uh,
realize that was his name, Cosmo Jarvis. Huh?
yeah, that's his
That
that's
sounds
his
made
name.
up.
His full name is Harrison Cosmo Curican Jarvis.
That sounds even more made up.
Yeah, wow, okay, there you go. So yeah, you have him who plays John, and then you have Anna Sawai who plays Mariko there. She plays her there. Very good performances all around. I mean, from everybody in the show. Anna Sawai, you've probably seen her. She was just in Monarch. That's where I first saw her. She was in
Oh,
Monarch
okay.
Legacy of Monsters. She plays the main character in that there. And Sonata, he's been around for a long time in Hollywood.
Oh yeah.
We were just watching the interview with him, and he says like you've been acting. I mean, since a child actor since the '60s. There he's been there. I mean, people have seen him. I think he was recently. You probably didn't see him in this, but he was in that Zack Snyder movie, Army of the Dead. He was in that.
I did
Um,
not say that.
and he was also the Wolverine. He was in that. Uh,
Yeah, he was they didn't make him a mutant in the movie, but he was the Silver Samurai character.
Yeah, I guess his mutant power was shade. He was throwing a lot of shade in the movie to everybody there. He was doing that. Bullet Train he was also in, and he was also Scorpion in Mortal Kombat. So he's been in, but he's been
Yeah,
in.
for the 10 minutes of screen time they gave him.
I mean, he had the best part in Score. I mean, in Mortal Kombat,
Oh,
that
by
opening
far.
sequence, best part of the movie. It's like that's the like you
I
just
wish that was the whole movie.
yeah. Like I think they released that online at first. I was like, oh shit, this is gonna be really cool. And then actually seeing the movie, it's like, oh okay, well not. But yeah, he's been in Hollywood a long, long time there. And you also
He
have
was in Endgame.
yes, he was in Endgame. He was
They
only
kind
in
of
for like
wasted him a little bit.
yeah, he was the guy that Hawkeye killed in Endgame. Yeah, very
Yeah.
wasted in that. He was also in John Wick, also there in the latest
Hmm.
one, John Wick
Okay.
4. Yeah.
I've not
Um,
seen the most recent one of those still.
yeah, so he was in that. You also have the actor who famous he played in Ichigo the Killer. He was the main guy there in that. I was like surprised. I was
Oh,
like, oh
was he? Okay.
yeah, he was that. He plays Kakahashi, who's the one of the main guys that serves Sonata's character there. You have him as
Okay.
well. I mean, really great cast. I mean, all around, and to see everybody kind of doing things, you know what I mean? See, it very much is like a Game of Thrones, very much political nature, people trying to scheme each other, who's gonna be on the side, who's trying to one up each other. That's always very interesting to watch in that dynamic. And to see like Sonata especially like what is his end game here? What is his goal? What is he trying to do? At first you think like, has he been like is he gonna just resign to be defeated? Does he have a plan? He's it looks like he's about to surrender and then all his people are telling him like, "Why are you about to surrender? We can do this, we can do that." And to see the what he actually does to get on top is really amazing. I think that's really amazing, and just to see like being in this society. You mentioned Anna Sawai's character here, Mariko, who you see her position here and her lineage of her serving him, and then what that means of her family is kind of disgrace because
Mhm.
what happened with her father. I think it was her father betrayed the former one of the former rulers there. I think it was,
Yeah, yeah.
and so her family got disgraced because of that, and then she had to be kind of forced to marry this other person to kind of gain more of her family name back, and then I mean that's some great stuff too with seeing that marriage and seeing just seeing where that goes there, and I mean the stuff she says to him. There's like a scene that where she says to him about like not never being in love with him and just wanting to die to basically get away from. I mean that was cold blooded. I mean, that was hard
Yeah.
there. So
That guy seemed unshakable out too outside of that scene, and then she goes in on him, and you can just see him kind of break completely.
oh yeah, I mean that was fantastic the way that was kind of played out. And like you mentioned, great acting of being like a performance that is so reserved, and where she is very much keeping her emotions in check, but also you can still tell what she's kind of feeling and thinking at certain moments, and certain moments where she lets a little bit more out, especially with the Blackthorn character as he kind of integrated his way of being an outsider there, trying to learn these different ways and customs there of these people and how they kind of operate. That's very kind of fascinating to watch there. What do you think about some of those elements there?
Oh yeah, I loved all of that. I mean, this is another thing that was in that same interview that you mentioned. But one of the questions they were asked was how she played kind of being, because she's also Blackthorn's translator in the show, and so she has a lot of scenes with him because he's at the beginning at least she's the only way he can kind of communicate with anyone, and kind of to see the way that she translates words, and she's very honest about the kind of the points and the meaning that people ask her to translate. But she also is she's so good at it because she also does it in such a way where she kind of tells everybody honestly what the other person's saying, but she does it in this way where it's kind of like the best way to put it, or the way that the other person would like to hear it most. I don't know, it's just a really, she's got such a good performance here, and the way she has to kind of play peacemaker between these characters of totally different culture. Um, and so she also clearly is, the only other person in the show that understands, what for her is a foreign culture, being the English or the Portuguese, and being this kind of window for each culture to view each other is. I mean, she really, a lot of the show really rides on her. As great as everybody else is, I think she maybe has maybe the most pivotal part to play.
Yeah, and when it comes to the end, you realize like this big, kind of the role she has to play there in society, and kind of this whole game of chess pieces here, what they're kind of doing. And you kind of see that they're the look of the show, beautiful looking show, like you mentioned. I mean,
Oh yeah.
you can really tell the budget. I mean, it's not like watching a Disney Plus show, and you know what I mean. Marvel series like Secret Invasion was like $350 gazillion. I'm like, where the fuck did all that money go? Um,
Or Rings of Power with over a billion. I don't
uh,
see the money in there at all.
Here you can definitely see the money in, like you mentioned, the costumes, the sets here, just the shooting locations you see there. Even some of the small battle sequences they have look really great there. They have a lot of that stuff kind of going on, which was really fantastic. I thought that, so you can really tell like it's dripping with the money, and this is a large cast. This is a really large cast. They're dealing with a lot of kind of stuff there. You have
Big ensemble.
big ensemble here, yeah, with a lot of characters. Besides the three we mentioned, who else do you really love in the show?
Oh, I have the IMDb pulled up here just because I wanted to be able to shout people out in particular. But Yabushige as the and make sure I have the right character here. But he was the kind of region. Yes, that is him. He was the kind of regional lord. He kind of spends a little more time with Blackthorn early on. He's the one who he gets stuck down in the water, and he's almost about to kill himself before they manage to pull him back up. And he's kind of playing his own little game kind of inside of Toranaga's game.
The one that's
Which
I mentioned that was in Each of the Killer, that guy, or
yes, yes,
okay, yeah,
yeah. He really kind of because he's kind of playing his own little game inside of this larger game, and it's interesting to watch him kind of get boxed in by these other games, and he's almost like the he almost comes across as like the obviously I don't think he's as smart as say a character like Littlefinger because Littlefinger actually pulled a lot of his plans off, whereas I think this character doesn't. But he is that kind of almost you underestimate him because he is a subordinate and not the actual ruler, right? Outside of a smaller territory. But yeah, kind of watching him and trying to elevate his sons and kind of see where he can go. He's doing that thing where he's kind of playing both sides a little bit, trying to see what who he can cozy up to and kind of make out on top with. And watching his plans kind of get cut off by these other bigger plans and slowly get boxed into one position over the course. I thought that was a really interesting character to watch too.
yeah. He's like Matt from Philip. It's Always Sunny. He's like I play both sides, so I always end up
Yeah, it's
winning.
like so I always come out on top.
Yeah, except he doesn't come out on top. But
No, he
uh,
really doesn't.
yeah, I loved him, and he's kind of, I guess if you had to say, somewhat of a comedic relief of the show. I think he's kind of, not to say he's a goofy character, but he's just in his personality. He's a little bit an asshole. There in a
Yeah,
lot of
I
his.
think he has like he's like almost got like a swagger that a
Yeah,
lot of the like there's a charisma to him. Whereas like a lot of the other characters like Toranaga, expert performance, but it's also very stoic and reserved, right? And it's intentional because he doesn't want to kind of let people in on what he's planning and what he's thinking. But this character, he's more kind of immediately expressive and charismatic.
yeah. I mean, he comes in, he talks a lot of shit. I know people have been spreading that meme around where it's like he, comes in, he brings like, what is this Christian nonsense that he's kind of bringing there,
Yep. A
and that's
lot of
another.
uses for that.
And they kind of bring that in there as well. Like this, another element in the show is the religious aspect. So you have these, the Portuguese, right? The Portuguese are kind of coming in there and then trying to install churches within the Japanese nation there. So they're trying to work their own game there to try to, trying to have that kind of going on to spread. I think it was Catholicism, right? Or yeah,
Yeah,
Catholicism. They're trying to spread Catholicism there, which
that
I mean,
Blackthorn is a Protestant.
yeah.
And so there's immediate animosity to the Portuguese that are already there because of that.
Yeah, and then the Japanese, when he first arrives and they try to have a person who speaks English come to talk to him, it's like, well, I'm not going to talk to him because he's Catholic and he's trying to do that, and they say, well, what's really
Right.
the difference between the two? You both believe in the same God there, and he
Right.
breaks it.
And this is totally like to them, completely like, what is this conflict you guys even have? Like, how are you even bickering about this when you're to us, you seem so similar.
Yeah, and you do have Anna Sawai's character who converted. She's one of the people that did convert and did
Yeah.
become Catholic. So you see that her religion there. She has a connection to the church there and very much believes in that. Um, which was good. And another female character who I think also knocks it out of the park in this is Fuji, who's the character there,
Yeah. Yeah.
who opens up right away. Things are pretty tragic for her because her husband and her newborn have to be killed because her husband ends up disrespecting one of the regents, I think it was, and then so as punishment, he has to kill himself, and then he has to kill the child as well, and he has to what's it called
Seppuku.
seppuku. He has to do that, and then he has to kill the child as well. So already opening up pretty rougher in the
Yeah.
beginning of the series there. But to see her character and the way she kind of develops, and she eventually has to become, I think what they call it, basically like a maid or like kind of like a
I think they
housekeeper
use the word consort, I want to say.
consort. Yeah, they
Yeah.
use that for Blackthorn because he gets his own kind of property there in Japan. They set him up in a place like, well, you can be useful to us now because naval kind of techniques and things that we could use in the fight there. Toranaga kind of has him do that, and they set him up with his own place there. So yeah, she becomes kind of a consort to him there, which I thought that was kind of a fun dynamic. How'd you like her in the show?
Oh, I thought she was great. It was Moeka Hoshi, I think is the pronunciation for the actress's name. No, I thought she was really good too. I mean, you know, uh, still there's a lot of people grieving at different points in the story, but I do think that kind of seeing what she goes through at the beginning is got to be some of the harshest grieving that any of the characters in the story are put through. And to kind of see where her arc takes her, and trying to kind of look for something meaningful in her life that she can attach herself to, and find something to just to drive her forward, and give some kind of purpose as a person. That's a really fascinating struggle.
Mm, yeah. So you see kind of because at first she does not want to be his housekeeper at all. I guess also, I mean, the fact that she was like, it's such a disrespect to be, a concert to, someone who is a foreigner, and I guess that level
Yeah.
of their disrespect there. But it's very much following having to do a duty, and then a lot of what these people have to do is like their duty there, and you kind of see that played out. But they eventually grow really closer, and you see that relationship and bond throughout the show there, which was really good.
And I
Yeah,
like that it was more of a friendship than anything romantic too, because that easily could have been another kind of romantic subplot in a lazier story. But
yeah.
I
Do a
like
love
that it was
triangle.
very, yeah, like a lazier story might have done that. But I like that it remained this kind of platonic, more just it just felt like a deeper, more interesting relationship that way.
Yeah. Speaking about romance, so Blackthorn and Mirko do get together. How'd you like that? How'd you like that romance in the show?
I thought it felt pretty earned. I mean, they spend a lot of time building up to it, and they also interact with each other on a lot of different levels too. It's not that's never like it never feels like that's like, hey, we're just pushing these two characters together only for this purpose. I think there's a lot of interesting elements to their dynamic where if that hadn't happened, like they're everything between them, I think works. And then I think it works as a way to take it. They definitely feel like I mean, in that situation, for him especially, she's one of the only people that he actually like truly gets to know while he's there. So, especially from his side, it makes sense that he developed some feelings for her. And then, yeah, I just the way that she's already got converted to the Catholic religion, right, because of the Portuguese presence. So she already has tapped into Western cultures just a little bit more than anyone else there. So she's got a window into into how he thinks and sees the world right away. I think it felt pretty earned. I didn't think it felt cheap like it can in certain stories.
Yeah. Yeah, because they take it because they don't really officially get together. I mean, there's that kind of building up, I think, until like the second to last episode or third to last episode, I think it
Yeah, it's
was.
really close to the end.
Yeah. So it does feel more earned than in something else there. When they do eventually finally be together there. But obviously that's not that's not long there.
Yeah,
Uh
yeah, yeah. That's also
so
probably why it works because they it's doomed to kind of have a tragic outcome.
Yeah. So when it comes to the ending, so what happens here at the end is that the big master plan by Toranaga was, he's making a plan to surrender. He's like his, opposition has gathered all these forces. They have all the support. They're gonna basically kick him out there of being one of the regents. And then he sends Anasawai's character to because I think he stays in Okinawa, and then she goes to I think it's is it supposed to be Tokyo that she goes to, or uh
Um,
not Tokyo,
I thought it was Kyoto.
Kyoto. She goes, I think, yeah,
Yeah,
Kyoto, yeah, is where it is.
and he goes separately because he gets a grieving period for his son, so he doesn't have to kind of surrender himself. At the same time that a large portion of his people and the people under him do, and so he kind of gets to separate himself in that interesting way.
Yeah. Who his son dies in the most embarrassing death possible,
Oh,
ever.
I laughed out loud. I couldn't. I like that was legitimately in a show that is not generally like super funny a lot of the time. It has its moments. That I had a good belly laugh out of that moment.
Yeah. I mean, cause so his son, before we get to it, so his son basically he tries to kill his father's brother, his uncle there, because his uncle at first he thought that he was gonna get his brother to come and join him as his half brother. It's like, hey, I need your army to go fight here. But his brother goes like, actually, well, I already teamed up with the other guys, and I'm not gonna be joining you, and I'm kind of not. So he goes to kind of tries to kill him here, and he dies in the most embarrassing fucking way as you see right here. Uh, yeah, I mean, they basically have a fight. There's a lot of fights in a lot of like places like this where they kind of do
And
this.
really good camera work and choreography too. I thought it was always very clear what was going on. The lighting is always really good. The movement of the actors feels very purposeful. Yeah, I really appreciate it. It's as few and far between as like action scenes might be in the show. Every time they do happen, they always feel pretty special and well done.
Damn, jeez, he slips and just falls right on the back of his head and cracks his skull open there. Um,
Oh man.
and he's got the thing. He's kind of got I don't know what do you call it. Like he's the son of the king, but he's kind of got a what do you call it? Complex there a little bit of
Oh, it's total like a superiority complex. He comes off as so it just he has this aura about him that he's like, oh, you're not going to live up to your dad. Your dad's such a badass, such a he won these wars when he was so young and like younger than you are now, and you're still real skinny. You know, look like a warrior. Yeah, like he definitely has a superiority complex about his father for
yeah.
sure.
And there was a scene that he kind of also messed things up where he did the whole cannon massacre kind of thing
Yeah,
there, which
yeah, that was the first time he didn't listen to his father.
yeah, which also messed it, which that was also really good too. That scene was super graphic. When they actually do that, it's like, geez, I'll show a little bit of this. I hope I don't get kicked off of YouTube, but I'll show a little bit of this here
Oh,
because
he
this.
already showed the Mortal Kombat thing, so
Uh, and they're telling him like, don't do it. You know what I mean? Like this is a mistake. And he orders these cannons, and then
of
boom.
course,
I mean,
since Toranaga's not there, he's not listening to anyone.
jeez, it's like people just. I mean, yeah, I guess that's how it really be. If you get hit by a cannon at that, just you just
Oh yeah, you're just gonna explode.
just boom, you turn into spaghetti. I mean, that's it, like right there. Jeez.
And that's another good thing about the action scenes in the show is they're pretty, I think, realistic in the fact that they start incredibly suddenly and they don't last long and they end incredibly suddenly. They feel like very real conflicts, very real fights because of that. They really they get in, they get out. They look really good, and they don't spend a lot of time on like unnecessary, like prolonged sequences for that kind of thing.
Yeah. Do you wish there was a scene in Shogun, kind of like you have you seen Game of Thrones?
Oh yeah, I watched all of it.
Okay. Do you wish there was a scene kind of in Shogun like Battle of the Bastards or something like that? Do you wish there was kind of something like that?
I didn't think it needed it really. I mean, I think the action's cool when it happens, but and not to say that people weren't captivated by the character drama in Game of Thrones, but I feel like it's just the character drama is so interesting in Shogun that even when an action scene does break out, it's mostly revolved around a character choice like that son uh, making these very irresponsible decisions. Not to say that they couldn't have done something, really cool. Certainly they could have, but I don't think it was necessary. I think it was
Mm,
fine without it. I wasn't really think during the show. I really wasn't thinking, oh, this could use something like that. It to me, it all felt uh, paced really perfectly.
yeah. Because like I think isn't Battle of it doesn't have the record of like most horses or something or like most expensive battle scene in the show or I think it had some record.
Probably in the TV series, it probably does. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it holds some record like that. But yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, the show does a great job at with the political intrigue and with the kind of the violence that kind of happens and kind of shows up there. That it really doesn't need anything like that. You know what I mean? I think they really hold people's interest really without it there. Going to so the ending, so like I said, Anna Sawai's character, she goes there to Kyoto basically as surrendering effort. Like I said, he seems like he's going to surrender, but it turns out even unbeknownst to even the people that she's going with, not John Blackthorne, not one of his seems like his closest advisors there. Actually, one of his closest friends, his best friend for a long time. He's known since he was a little kid. There actually, it's like he's like, I hate this decision that you're surrendering so much. I'll end my own life right in front of you, and he's just watching him this guy that he's known for decades end his own life right in front of him. And that was all part of the plan because so she's gonna go there. She went there. She has a personal relationship with the wife of one of the regents that's mainly going against Toranaga there. Uh, they've been friends since they were little girls there. They've been friends. And, there's a situation where they're keeping some of the people there hostage. There are a lot of some of the people there. So because they're doing that, she was like, well, because you won't let me go back and keeping me hostage here, and I'm not able to serve my duty is basically what I got ordered to do by my lord. I'll, also in my own life. And they go like, well, we can't let her do that because of her kind of importance and her status there. So that would look very bad on the country. So they stop her when she's just about to do it there. And obviously they were like, well, this is going to create a fallout of, if she wants to leave, then we have to let everybody go and we have to do this, and which eventually does happen.
Because
Um,
they're trying to kind of keep these people here, but the people doing it, these other regions that are doing it, they're trying to play it off as though, well, we're not forcing you to stay. I mean, you could leave. You shouldn't. We haven't finished what we're doing yet. They're trying to play it off in this way where it's the whole politeness of the way people speak to each other. And so part of the plan too, with her, trying to leave and kind of force her way out and then not being able to, is also to kind of force them to admit that they're holding everyone hostage, because they're kind of trying to not say that's what they're actually doing, and kind of keep a active conflict from breaking out from like subterfuge to active war. But and then of course she's able to kind of prove, yes, they're keeping us hostage. Yes, we're going, like, yes, this is actually like purposeful conflict that they're causing. So it's kind of a ploy to force them to admit what they're doing out loud.
yeah, which is, yeah, I mean, very masterful on their part. So they end up stopping her from committing what is it called again?
Seppuku.
Seppuku. They stop her from doing that, creates a fallout. Obviously, then other people going like, well, you can leave as well. And the night before she's, about to leave, they're heading out tomorrow. A sneak attack comes, where they come and then basically are going to kill her while she's there at night. There, ends up dying there with that, and that obviously creates a huge fallout because they did that, and also the person that we mentioned before, who's one of the top guys for Toranaga, Takahashi, or not Taka, is that his name? Uh, um, uh,
Uh, I,
Kagahashi.
yeah, yeah, yep, yep.
Kagahashi there. He's one of the people that betrays them, lets the people in the dead of night, and then they're able to carry out the mission and then end up killing her. Creates a huge fallout. Basically, all the sides go like, well, since this happened, we're not going to support you anymore. Forces are not going to support you. The woman who seems to be like also, because she's a woman, she can't really be the voice out there leading, but she's the one really kind of seems like pulling the strings a lot with a lot of the regents, and especially the main guy. Who's the main? I forgot his name.
The main kind of villain regent.
Yeah. Uh,
Let me see here.
I forgot what his name was, but the main, yeah, kind of villain region that you have
Yeah.
here. But yeah, but
Uh,
she, I think is it Ishido? Is it this? Yeah, it's this guy.
yeah. I think it's Shishido.
Terioko Haria, I think is the actor's name. So it's this guy there. He's like the main region guy that's gathering up all this support there, that's trying to take him on. And
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, so his wife seems like she's the one that like really is pulling the strings, like really is the most politically minded person there. So
Yeah.
after that happens, then yeah, basically all the support falls out. She drops her support as well. So he's got nothing now. So yeah, I mean, he basically sent a woman to basically he had this all planned. He knew it was going to happen, and he's basically like, I sent a woman to do a job that an army couldn't do. Basically there.
I mean, he's legitimately playing 4D chess here. Like the fact that the payoff and build up, I think when you understand what he's doing here, the fact that it works as well as it does, I think it's really brings the whole season together. And being like, wow, yeah, no, that was like actually a genius strategy to get this situation in his favor.
Yeah. What'd you think about that? With
Oh, I
Toranaga.
loved it. I mean, I was totally blown away. I was very impressed by that. I didn't really I feel like a good chunk of the time when I'm watching most stories, I feel like I can kind of see most surprises coming. I think it's just the nature. It's not even an intelligence thing. It's just a matter of seeing so many things and seeing the patterns and storytelling and just things repeating themselves. But I thought the way this played out was for me totally unpredictable. I thought he had something up his sleeve, but I couldn't have. I just did not expect necessarily his plan to be what it was. And anytime I can't predict how something's going to play out, I really do appreciate it a lot.
Yeah. And he's explaining in this speech, how he kinda worked it all out. Lady, Oshida was the person there that was the
Sorry,
best
it wasn't Kyoto. It was Edo. That was
Edo.
the place. That yeah. My bad.
Okay, Edo there. And, yeah, so he says, yeah, he's working on it, so because she did that, because of what happened, he knew that she was gonna fall out with him. And she has the army for the heir there, the heir of, because it's like this little child there that's basically the heir to this fortune and the armies and everything. So she kind of has control of that because it's just a little kid that you see there, and then she's gonna withhold that. Because she withhold that, then that's gonna back him out there, and nobody's gonna fight on his side. So I mean, you could say that, hey, I mean, it avoided all this massive war, all this bloodshed. I mean, you could say that because of this one person's sacrifice. And she knew that she was basically going to her death. I mean, she basically knew that. So you could say that there. And she kind of served her purpose there, I guess, of what she kind of wanted. Even though her son, who was still in Edo there,
Yeah,
begged her not to there. And so, yeah, you kind of have that kind of going there. Um, yeah, so it was really great ending. I mean, what it really kinda turned out to be. I thought that was a really kinda brilliant chess move
that's why
there.
I'm worried about them doing more because I feel like it is. I like it didn't feel like there needed to be anything left. I feel like the story wrapped itself up so well, and I thought it was such a good ending that I'm yeah I'm just worried about them continuation feeling forced.
Yeah. So, we'll see there. So, what would be your final thoughts and rating for Shogun there?
I really struggled to think of anything I didn't like about this. I tried really hard, and I feel like if I really try to think of a flaw or something that irked me, and I can't, that's kind of a sign for me to give it this is cinema. I was captivated the entire time. I loved the whole cast, the set, the costumes, everything we've mentioned. All of it really was kind of firing on all cylinders from the first to the last, and for it to nail the ending so well. This kind of felt like a perfect season of television to me. Yeah, it's a this is cinema.
Yeah. I have to agree. Um, yeah. I have to agree on that. This is amazing. Like you said, as far as thinking about something that is wrong with this show, it's hard to think of anything really. I mean, it's just really great on every level there.
There's one tiny nitpick I could get, and it's like it so does not affect my rating. But it's the second to last episode. Mariko puts her body against the door for the explosion to try and shield everyone else in the room from getting hit by it, and the explosion is like engulfs her entire body. And then in the following episode, when Blackthorn crawls over to her on the ground, she's got like I mean, her skin's like perfect, like across her whole body.
Yeah.
It's a nitpick. It's a tiny thing. It did not in fact affect my enjoyment of this at all. But it was just maybe the one moment in the whole show where I was like, okay, well, okay, she looks like perfectly preserved. And that's maybe just a tiny bit silly. But again, it's such a small thing. Like that is not a serious dig in any way.
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, I give it a high peak, basically bordering on This Is Cinema, for it there, for, Shogun. And you gave it a peak there?
I just give it a full. This is cinema.
This Is Cinema. Yeah. High praise there.